Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We bring you stories of faith, love, and devotion. Yeah, just kidding, please help us grow by hitting that like button. Now on to the story. Help? Seeking advice. Edit, sorry, I don't know how to actually use Reddit. I'm also not an English major and I'm really just coming off the cuff here. Edit 2, word vomit. I'm sorry. Edit 3, working on learning terminology. Never thought this would be the kind of sub I would find myself on. Think I have at least one term down? 3 days post D-Day? Anyways, why I'm here. I found my wife of 3 years to be having an emotional/physical affair. Things have not been great for us. We have been trying to conceive for over a year, which culminated with a miscarriage a few months back. She understandably changed after this and we grieved, or so I thought. Apparently I was an emotionless robot. Fast forward a few months, we uprooted ourselves, her, myself, and her 7-year-old son, my adopted son from a previous relationship, to a new state so I can complete my doctorate. I could type for hours but I will try to keep it brief. Things aren't great for any of us. I'm stressed out of my mind with school. Our new apartment is definitely not what was advertised. Our boy is trying to get acclimated to a new school, and she is job hunting. Long story short, we're all slowly turning into miserable shells of yourself. Cue me coming into finals week. I think things are normal. We have good days and bad days like anyone else, but this one day is just weird and I can't explain the sixth sense I got about it. A few nights before she goes out for drinks after opening a new location for her work, while I am at home trying to study for finals and keeping a 7-year-old occupied, said she wouldn't be long, but 2.5 hours later she's still not home. Up to this point in our relationship we have been very transparent with everything. We know each other's bank info, passwords, share locations on Life 360, etc. So she's at this bar until midnight and strolls through the door. A few minutes later I feign sleep and she comes and strokes my head. It's sad, but this was the red flag for me. She hadn't done much like that over the previous weeks/months, especially after our miscarriage, so it just felt off. The next day I noticed her Snapchat location was turned off and her score was going up, but it was from me. Don't think anything about it for a while and we go to lunch. As I said, we've always been transparent with phones and everything, and a few hours later this is just eating at me, so I go to grab her phone to look and it's logged out of Snap. Weird. I log in and find the messages in gory detail between her and a co-worker and confront her about it, and it is still like a fever dream I'm living in and I'm still not sure how to process. I leave for a few hours and go see one of my friends from school and her husband because they are from my hometown and essentially the only people I know in the area. The whole time my wife is blowing up my phone begging me to come talk, as I've turned off my locations to everything, or so I thought. She is able to find it through an iPad and tries to come find me. Decides to return to the apartment for kids' sake because he's freaking out at this point, and hearing him wailing through the phone honestly hurts as bad, if not more, than reading those messages. We talk about things. I try to get down to the why and she calls it a mistake. That's a pretty effing large mistake, but I digress. I try to be civil. She claims she loves me and such, and I shoot many seething barbs her way about if she did actually love me she wouldn't have done this to me and our child. At the time these jabs I made at her were some of the most vile things I could think of. I wanted her to hurt like I was, but now I feel almost as bad about those as the whole situation. I'm sorry I'm ranting, my mind is still everywhere. She wants to work things out and get back to how things used to be between us before life made us miserable, and in my heart I want that too, but my brain was screaming run and bringing the boy. Currently my brain is just like, why do you care? Genghis Khan had thousands of partners. Why should you care? I know this isn't a healthy way to deal either, but I just don't know how to move forward. She broke the most sacred vow two people could share, but again they are just words. How do I ever trust her again? Can I ever trust her again? Again, sorry for the incoherent rambling, but this is just how it's coming out. Her affair wasn't a mistake. She made a choice to be unfaithful. It was a series of conscious decisions to get to that point. She made a decision to meet a co-worker, she made a decision to behave inappropriately, and made a decision to be unfaithful. You need to operate under this premise. Her miscarriage was devastating, but it doesn't excuse her choice. She wants to go back to the way things used to be. This can't happen. You can reconcile and have a good marriage, but it'll never be the same. For me, reconciliation took years and was extremely difficult. Trust. It can be rebuilt, but for me, it was never that complete and absolute trust. Your initial response may be to leave or it may be to stay. You will need some time to process her betrayal and to make a decision. Your situation is complicated because of her child. We have acknowledged all of the things you mentioned and even accepted that it won't be the same. That was poorly worded on my part. I'm just lost on how to begin the rebuilding process and looking for insight there, I suppose. Because as some have said, and from what you hear from others, this hardly ever works in the long run. I just want to know if it's possible or if I'm beating a dead horse, so to speak. My WW's affair happened after 3 kids and 11 years of marriage. There were aspects of her affair that made reconciliation extremely difficult, but we prevailed and have been married for 36 years. There are certainly days where I have wondered if I wouldn't have been happier if we had separated. It took a lot of time and heartache, but we prevailed. If your wife is genuinely remorseful and you are both willing to invest some time, the odds of a successful reconciliation increase dramatically. MC helped immensely. It helped us work through the reasons she was unfaithful and my reactions to her infidelity. Already been through 1 to 3. There were no outright I love yous but definite pet names, and I need yous. Emotional aspect has been going on for almost 2 months and the physical happened within the last 3 weeks. These are the answers I received anyways and matched up with messages from what I could tell. Her previous relationship was just BFGF type thing. The kicker is that after they conceived he knocked up one of her friends 2 months later and it fell apart from there. I've been with her since he was 2.5 and he is legally mine now, which is another thing that made this feel so shitty. We put in all this time and effort for you to jeopardize not only our relationship but the relationship we share with our child because of your selfish choices. It's just so hard to make anything make sense because I try to put logic into most of the decisions I make. From what I've learned from infidelity subreddits and other infidelity support websites and my own experiences, how a person survives infidelity varies from person to person. Logic and rationality almost always have nothing to do with the way forward. You may know what the reasonable thing to do is, but it can be incongruous with your intuition. Exactly like infidelity itself. As an example, a lot here would say that they would divorce if there were no children involved, or if they can afford it. Some people would say, before D-Day, that infidelity is a deal breaker and they would leave the relationship immediately without question, only to find themselves doing the pick-me dance. In short, if everyone did the rational thing to do, there would be no overweight or cigarette-smoking people in the world. In the case of infidelity, YMMV, your mileage may vary. You will not know the best thing to do unless you go through the journey. And herein lies the worst part about infidelity: BSs had nothing to do with the betrayal but will suffer the brunt of it. BSs pay for the wayward decisions. The first weeks will be very confusing. A lot of Redditors call it a roller coaster. I called it a pendulum. You may be in a good place one day, and be writing the divorce agreement the next. In my case it took 17 months to throw in the towel, even with a truly remorseful WW. The only thing I can tell you from experience is from this point on you have to take care of yourself and make the best decision for yourself and no one else's. Good luck. Story 2. Infidelity. A few years ago, my wife and I had an incident. I would like to share my story, but I feel like a little bit of an outsider because I am not sure any true infidelity occurred. However, I find this sub helpful as I can relate to many of the emotions I experienced then and occasionally still do. My wife met a guy through a friend of a friend and they hit it off right away, and started texting each other. This guy was married, but he and his wife were polyamorous. I was immediately uncomfortable with them texting each other because of that, but she said, "Oh, it's just a friend, am I not allowed to have friends?" And I trusted her. Before long she started asking him questions about how their relationship worked. He started recommending her books and podcasts and etc. about polyamory, and she ate it all up. Even though I told her from the beginning that was not the type of relationship I wanted, there was no point in her learning all this. That soon turned into "you don't control me, can't tell me what to read, or what to listen to, etc." Well, of course this culminated with them wanting to date. And she wanted to have sex with him, she certainly made no secret of that. And she pushed me hard for it. She started saying things that I still find very painful to think back on. She said this is who she truly was, who she had always been. That she needed it to be happy. She called me jealous, and controlling. She called me codependent for wanting monogamy, and talked about disentangling our lives. She told me about fantasies she had involving him, at least she was honest. This went on for quite a while. I fell into a very bad place mentally. Finally I asked for a divorce. Told her I didn't think we were compatible anymore. I felt like I couldn't let myself love her, because I was hurting so bad from the things she said and I couldn't trust her not to continue hurting me. Cue shocked Pikachu face. And a total 180. She recanted it all. She didn't need to be poly, all she needed was me. She loved me so much and would never hurt me, ha. She hurt me more than I've ever been hurt in my life. She went into therapy. She blocked him. And then things just kind of went back to normal. She chose me and gave up on the idea, and I made a conscious choice to forgive the whole situation. Which took me some time and therapy of my own. But there was nothing for me to really say to her at that point. She said she was racked with guilt, and I saw no point in piling onto it by venting anger at her. So I vented to my therapist instead, and eventually my anger and pain, mostly, dissipated. Still I wonder sometimes, was it infidelity? Definitely nothing physical happened, she is too honest to hide that from me. I don't even think they got very flirty or sexual with each other, I am not totally sure on this one. She offered to let me read their messages but I had no desire to, I just wanted to move on. On the other hand, she definitely became very emotionally attached to him, or at least to the idea of dating him. Enough so that she was willing to hurt me and put our marriage at risk over her fantasies. I realize that to a large degree it doesn't really matter. It's just, I feel such a kinship with the people and stories in this sub. But at the same time I feel like an outsider, almost a fraud, because I'm not sure there was any true infidelity, maybe I'm just exaggerating my situation. I also cannot wrap my mind on that lifestyle. My wayward husband turned out to believe in that lifestyle, his ex didn't care what he did as long as he came home to her. I made it absolutely clear I want monogamy. You feel betrayed because she promised to love only you, then begged to be given permission to go crazy as long as she came home to you. It makes my stomach lurch. Polyamory is consensual non-monogamy. Infidelity is non-consensual non-monogamy. Whether emotional or physical, the decisive feature is whether everyone affected is consenting or not. If all consent, then it is ethical non-monogamy. If not all are consenting or aware, then there is some abuse or exploitation going on. As others here stated, it sounds like she had an emotional affair while trying hard to lobby you for full-on polyamory. Asking for divorce was the bucket of cold water that snapped her back hard into reality. The questions that will linger now are, is she really deep down polyamorous and now just pretending to be satisfied with monogamy to hold the marriage together? You will likely have multiple conversations about the big questions like this that will have you wondering about her fundamental nature for a while. The questions that will linger now are, is she really deep down polyamorous and now just pretending to be satisfied with monogamy to hold the marriage together? You are right, it is still a fear of mine, that one day she will decide this is who she really is and it will ultimately lead to the end of our marriage. She swears not, but there's no real way to prove it, is there? We hope that by sharing these stories with interested folks like you, we can help people recognize the signs of a relationship in trouble, and avoid so many of these heartbreaking situations yourselves. Have a good day or night, wherever you are.